Welcome to the Builders Podcast, episode 143, Colin Sanburg, From Red to Black, The Importance of Financial Literacy. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable from the trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Colin Sanburg. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you having me.
So, Colin is the founder of FinElevate, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about today, and an MBA-led strategic accounting service. He has run multiple businesses, and so we'll have a lot to talk about, which is good. I mean, it's good to have business people on that have multiple businesses because you have a lot of experience and probably have gone through a lot of challenges, and that's what we like to dig into here. The first thing we do, though, especially when we have you on for the first time, is we like to learn a little bit about you, your origin story, what made you into the awesome person you are today, doing the things you're doing, helping others, and why entrepreneurship, who influenced you, and all that good stuff. So I'll hand it over to you if you want to talk to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thanks for having me. Yeah, my entrepreneur story is kind of interesting. I actually first came across a magazine, believe it or not. It was an old Inc. magazine, back when I used to really follow that and love it. And it had an interesting story about a guy who basically, long story short, ended up buying some of his own debt. So he had been in business, he struggled, he thought he failed, and he became basically a debt collector. But he was a debt collector with a heart. It was kind of an interesting story. But the part that really caught my eye was that he, on the second or third round of him going down to the county courthouse and buying debt and actually sitting down with people and helping them, not being like the, crazy call you up and harass you type of guy.
Right.
He actually came across his own debt from his prior business. And it was this like thunderbolt moment in my life where it became clear, as somebody who felt like I hadn't always had control of my own destiny. Here was an example of a guy through small business that really controlled his own destiny. And that was so compelling to me that I immediately knew, like, in that moment, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. This is what I'm supposed to do. And at the time, I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship, but I had one family member who had their own business. Mm-hmm. I've since come to the realization most of us in small business, almost everyone to a person, has some proximity to another small business. And that's part of how they end up in that space, right? You see someone do it and you realize this is real. I can actually do this. So for me, that was that moment. And I basically went to a small family business, thought I'd be there for about a year, get to see behind the curtain, how the whole thing worked. And then I would go out and, set my own path. And right. 21 years later, I still own that business.
No kidding.
So, yeah. So, my year turned into now going on, 22 almost, as far as from when I started in that business. But I started as an employee, lowest paid person on the team, and really just kind of fell in love with small business. And as I did, we were a really struggling small business. I basically found myself in a turnaround project for my very first business. And so I always kind of joke that most of the things I learned were from how to do it the wrong way, more so than how to do it the right way. And over time and throughout, many years of kind of grinding it out, I figured out and solved a lot of those challenges. Many of them were financial. And so that's where my original love of the business finance side came from was, we were a traditional small business. We had a founder who was a very visionary type of person. They loved being in front of the customers. They loved talking about the products. They had a real passion for that. And anytime the numbers came up, it was like they were allergic to it, Yeah. And so coming to that realization that, the finances were always going to hold back our business, that became a passion of mine to dig in and figure out, like, how can I understand this business financially. How can I help this business make better decisions? And that really ended up ultimately shaping my entire career.
Wow. Yeah, like numbers is really foundational to every business. So if you don't get that part of it right, or you ignore them, or don't want to deal with them, that's not a good thing.
Absolutely. And I was always, I was not a traditional good student in school, right? I was kind of that, a lot of classic entrepreneurship vibes apparently going on even back in high school for me, which was, very bored, disengaged, that sort of thing. But man, when they would have those standardized tests come out and it was, something around basically numbers and number logic, like I always stepped up. That was my time to shine. That was just kind of how my brain worked. So yeah, finding that in business that, people always joke like, where am I going to use this algebra? Well, you use percentages, you use decimals, you use, right, multiplying, dividing, addition, subtraction every day in business. And so that was very appealing to me.
Yeah. And like I said, I guess you have to have a mind for it. Like every entrepreneur comes from different background. Everyone's got different personalities and strengths and weaknesses. And, but the financial side, even when I look at my business, like, understanding, having routines and everything built around, looking at my numbers, understanding my numbers and being able to predict. And, especially when you got a team and you got a lot of projects and all this stuff going on and people aren't paying you. What?
Yep.
You were supposed to pay me last week. But understanding all that, that's critical, foundational. Gotta wonder how many businesses fail just because of that.
Yeah.
That's, so this first business, what were you selling? What is this business you have now today?
Yeah. So that business is, my original manufacturing business. It's actually, does airport conveyors. So like what you've claimed your bag off of at the airport. Yep. We make all the parts for those and sell them across the country. So it was kind of,
I never thought I'd meet somebody like you.
Yeah. It's totally that business that everyone knows what we're talking about, but no one has ever thought about, at all until you meet somebody like me. And next time you're checking your bag, you'll go, man, I had that guy on the podcast. He was,
yeah. You never knew you needed to meet that guy. Like there was somebody that, there's how many things in your life like you just take for granted, or you just, you've always dealt with, but somebody is behind that. Somebody made that or innovated or did something. So you took over this business. So you said, a lot of the issues were financial. Like what specifically, what were they dealing with?
Yeah. So I always joke, if there are 10 things that could kill a business, we were doing like 9 out of 10 of them when I started. I mean, it was crazy. And so, we had every different financial challenge you can imagine. We didn't have enough money in the bank for payroll coming up. Our receivables were pretty limited and very hard to collect. We had a ton of amount due to vendors that we obviously, due to our bank account and the lack of receivables coming in, were going to be incredibly hard to pay.
Yeah.
We had a line of credit that we basically couldn't get to move. In other words, we had it maxed out and we couldn't figure out how to pay it off.
Yeah.
We had 6 figures worth of inventory that we basically couldn't move. It was inventory that was kind of a field of dreams inventory, I call it. Like if you build it, somebody will come buy it. It doesn't always work that way.
Gosh.
And so,
we got a good deal. We got a bulk deal on all this
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah. It was amazing. And ultimately ended up selling it for literally pennies on the dollar. I mean, scrapped the inventory, scrapped it for the metal value, which was pretty hard pill to swallow. But I mean, we had all of those challenges, but interestingly, is that we didn't make money. And so if you really get down to it, is that, I don't care where you're starting. If you're not making money, you're going to eventually hit the bottom. And if you're making money, if you can buy enough time, you will eventually climb out of any hole. And so that was really the hard fought lesson that I learned early in my career is, and so as I took over the company, I mean, this is back in the day, we had the manila folders. Now we were a little old school. We didn't need to have the manila folders, but we had other fish to fry. So I wasn't worried about the manila folders at that point, but I would have our team bring in every quote we were doing, every order we were doing. And I mean, we just fought tooth and nail for margin. I mean, every product, how can we buy it cheaper? How can we make it ourselves? How can we get the vendor to stock it instead of us stock it? I mean, If there was
Yeah.
a way to kind of cut a corner or eke out a little bit more margin, we were doing it. And that lasted for years. I mean, to climb out of the hole I was just describing. So that mode that we had to go into, unfortunately, was a very long, painful road. But as I went through it, it shaped, it changed my mind, right? It shaped how I think about business and my appreciation for not getting in that hole in the first place, obviously.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. But that made you, that challenge made you more efficient, and you learned a lot from it. So, I mean, yeah, bad things can happen, but at the end of the day or down the road, you learn those lessons, and now you're a better business person for it.
Absolutely.
But we hate to go through those lessons. They're rough at the time. Well, it's interesting though. I see parallels now. This is manufacturing, right? And then I run an agency, but there's so many parallels, that's why I love doing this podcast, because I talk to so many different types of people, but there's commonality between all our businesses and what we deal with. We all have to deal with accounting. We all have to deal with margins. We all have to deal with, paying the bills and not racking up too much debt or being able to actually pay it. I mean, racking up some debt, but you should be able to pay it. And finding ourselves in holes and situations. There's times where, in my business, even for the team, it's like, well, let's say you're, in a financial situation where you didn't make as much, or for whatever, your business is dipping a little bit. And okay, so what are my levers that I can use to ride this out? Do I have to let somebody go? Do I go out and pound the pavement and get more sales? Who can I call? Let's look at all our expenses. What don't we need? What can we live without for a while? There's a lot of those decisions that happen, right?
Absolutely.
Or could happen. Yeah. So you got through, what was the biggest, out of all those financial things, what do you think, what made the biggest impact? And you started to see a turnaround, was it just, you mentioned margin and going out and trying to get things cheaper. Was that the biggest impact, or did you have to focus more on marketing and just getting the sales and paying more attention to the quotes and whatever you had going on?
Yeah, I'll tell you, actually, interestingly, the most important element that we addressed at the time was what we were selling. So we were in that traditional small business mode of anything, a customer's willing to buy, we're willing to sell it. We're trying to be everything to everyone.
Oh, right.
And the reality, right, we didn't have a niche. And so when I took over the business, that was really my first order of business, was saying, hey, this thing we've previously been doing that was 70% of our revenue, we're not going to do it anymore. And that was a really radical thing to do. I was 26 years old at the time, and but I had done the math. I knew the math, and the math said that we had one small division that was only 30% of our revenue, but it made money. And the company as a whole lost money or broke even at best. And so when you look at it, it's like, well, the 70% just by logic has to be losing a significant amount of money. And so we basically went into kind of grind it out mode on this smaller portion of our business, but it was unique in the market. And so I saw the alignment of, it was our financial engine. It was a unique offering that we could actually specialize in and be the best at. And so we kind of combined that thought process and just said, look, we're going to sell as much of this as we possibly can. And so, yeah, to your point, it was a little bit on all fronts of, obviously the savings and the better margin and buying smarter. And I like to tell people, I ran that company for, 12 years in the original location, and we didn't buy a single piece of office furniture. We didn't buy a chair. We didn't do anything. Yeah. And once we finally came out all the way out of that hole and we were really in growth mode and ready to invest and ready to we moved and things looked up. But it was a walk through the desert for a long period of time. But as we went through it, we basically reached out to every potential customer who might need, and really the niche was the parts business. So when you go to the airport and you check your luggage and you go to collect in the bag claim, you can make that entire system, or you can make just the underlying parts that need to be replaced. And the reality is there are big companies that want to make the entire system. And the entire system means project management, project engineering. I mean, the list goes, hey, I put some wheels in a box and I shipped them to your airport. And I know the wheels will fit, and I give you all the support and love in the world on how to put them in, do it efficiently, keep your airport up and running. That was a niche that was underserved. But there were other competitors, and just like any construction business, you end up basically being in a low bid scenario to win the new systems. You can't win in a low bid business. Just so.
Holy cow, that is another powerful lesson there. I just niching down, like, how many businesses are out there, they're struggling with everything financially or whatever.
Yep.
And just stepping back and like you did, and being able to look at those numbers and to identify that part of your business that is profitable, and then and has maybe a differentiator or something that can really that you can lean into. You can actually market. You can actually specialize in that and do really good at that and become an expert at that. That's awesome. And then, but I mean, it's got to be painful though to get rid of that other 70%.
It was very painful. And again, my first act as CEO, unfortunately, involved laying a few people off. That was a really, really tough pill to swallow. And I had sleepless nights, and, it was tough. But I also had to be really honest with them, as well as the people who stayed, that, look, this is what it's going to take to make a healthy business. And
well, right. I mean, it's either
I think
that
they
or
all saw it. You kind of, the business was a bit of a zombie at that point. People kind of saw it as The Walking Dead instead of something that had a great future. And so, we lost a few other good people along that journey, right through the desert of just basically having to grind it out. In fact, I even had one person come back a few years later who left for another job in the industry. He came back and said, "Man, you were right." And of course, by then, things had turned and it started to look like it was a good plan all along, but it didn't mean it was always pretty, for sure.
That's something I admire about CEOs that come in and take over a business. And that I recently had, there was, it's not an agency. It's, they're like a coaching company, and, they had a new CEO show up, and, and we maintained their sites and stuff. So we had a maintenance contract with them, a sizable one. And, so of course he had to talk to me, and I can imagine him coming in, cause I've seen others do it too, coming in and assessing everything and, making sure, where are all the costs and do we really need this person? But that's a painful process. And that is, he's kind of the hero coming in, or she is kind of the hero coming in to turn the ship around, but in the process, there's a lot of cuts and things that can happen. But wow. So you've been doing that for how many years now? You've had it for 20 some years.
Yeah,
and you're still going strong.
I had been in the business for about 5 years when I officially took it over as CEO. And so that's been a while ago, 17, 18 years. So a handful of years ago, I actually hired a guy. Originally came in as COO. Now he's CEO of that company. And so
nice.
I'm still the majority owner, but he's my partner in that business, and he's doing really well running it. And
so was that kind of, when did you decide to start? Was that always the plan? You were going to run this business, get in a good place, and then step away eventually?
I definitely always had that vision that I was going to evolve beyond and do other things. That, business wasn't my passion. I don't wake up in the morning and I'm not like a conveyor guy.
Gotcha.
But, at the same time, I obviously, that was being my first business. It was critically important that it continue to be successful. And so I looked at, what are my options here? I can either sell this business, I can continue to run it as the primary, person in the business and the CEO, or I can find somebody, kind of the third option, right? Find somebody else outside of the equation who can come in and really add something new to the business. So the guy that I hired, mechanical engineer, had a technical sales background. He was kind of the perfect person to take it to the next level that were outside of the skill set that I had. And that really allowed me to pivot into being an investor and get into my second business, another manufacturing company actually in the custom cabinet space. So we do cabinets, for residential new home construction here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, bringing somebody in with that can, that brings in new skill sets and knowledge, and it's fantastic. But still being able to be a part of that business, but now you're free to go do other things, and I love that. So then you do this other. How many businesses do you have now?
How many
we got?
I'm losing track of myself. So a couple of real estate deals, but mainly 4 operating companies that go to market with their own clients. And the fourth one being my new startup. And so we bought a second business in the airport space after the residential cabinet business. And that one I was never more than an investor. I've got my partner in that business who's the CEO of it. He's third generation in that business. Doing custom cabinets. And then we, again, bought a second business, like I said, in the airport space that when you check your bag, so they put it on the conveyor, it goes through the door in the wall, which has the flaps that hang down, the black flaps. Yeah. So that door, we sell those doors now. That's kind of the second, another really random thing, but it interacts with the conveyor, that we already sell. And so it's got a similar industry, but this new startup that I'm working on. And interestingly, it was trying to solve my own problem. So again, I always had that financial focus, always looked at business through that lens. And so as I stepped out of a business and wanted to let the CEO run it, but also support them, it was the logical way to help out, which was, hey, I can help with the financial piece of the business, help with a perspective on how to look at it, and then obviously advise them as a longtime CEO myself and someone who had the experience and knew what it took to make the business work. So that kind of spawned. That was the beginning of the idea that eventually became my strategic accounting company.
I think it's interesting. You're helping people from an accounting perspective, finances. But you've been there, done that. You've been the CEO. Yep. You've been in that space and done all this stuff, overcame challenges, done all the things the CEO has to deal with. I always find that interesting. Again, I could run a parallel to like myself. Running my agency. We're a web design and development agency. Yep. This is what we do. We specialize within that. But my background. Having run other businesses in the past and have done a lot of marketing. When I, have partners, strategic partners, other agencies, digital marketing agencies, or direct clients with marketing departments, I have that marketing background. I have that knowledge beyond just building a website, making it look pretty. I understand the underlying, what we're in business. What are our goals? What are, we care about leads. We care about conversions. How are we going to do that? The user experience, all that stuff, and so in the same way, I imagine that all that business experience helps you communicate better with the people you're helping, right? And you understanding their problems more, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And so that's why, we say that we're founded by MBAs, not CPAs. So strategic accounting, it just kind of sounds a little bit vague. What it really means is we're in the businesses, we're helping them do the day-to-day bookkeeping. But more importantly, I always say that's kind of the need. The want is more transparency to their numbers, somebody to help, analyze the numbers. And that doesn't have to be a super complicated thing. So I think what's happened in the world, and part of why I ended up starting this business, is that it's almost impossible to get value out of the day-to-day bookkeeping, because it's really just categorizing expenses. Do we put everything in the right place? And so the high value version of that is we closed your month really quickly. It's like, okay, awesome. Thank you. That's like, the best organized closet. Like, thank you. It's cool, but it's not really going to add value in my life. Right. Mm-hmm. And so what we've done is also realize that the other end of that spectrum is this like fractional CFO type of concept. The problem there is that they're just going to hit you with a playbook, a complex plan. Maybe they're going to coach you on, here's some big picture ideas that you can do, but they're not going to help you implement them in the same way that your day-to-day person could if they were empowered. And so we've kind of bridged that gap. And I always say, not CPAs, and it's not to knock CPAs. CPAs are great, but the reality is we don't speak CPA language, right? The most of us as business owners, we're just down to earth people, right? We're either making money or we're not. We're either worried about our cash or we're not. I mean, we need analysis and help that's built in the language that we speak. And that's really what we designed FinElevate to be.
Wow. That's really, you think about all the people that are in business, we all get into business for different reasons and have different backgrounds or knowledge or education or no education. We just love what we do and we just dive in and then somebody brings up the word accounting and
run for the hills.
And reports and like numbers and like what you know nothing about it. It's scary, and you don't even know how often should I be doing this, and what should I be looking at specifically? It's like, again, let's run another parallel. Like if you think about, Google Analytics, for your websites or SEO and all that stuff, there's 9 zillion things you could be looking at. But there's only a handful of things that really help you make decisions or give you a good picture of where you're at or where you're headed and stuff. And that's probably a big part of it, right? I mean, there's a lot of, do you find that I like that you're not speaking the speak of CPAs or whatever, that you're not coming in with the technical language. You're really trying to just talk to them, and everyday voice, talking about things in a simple way, to help them understand what they need. And they're more receptive to that, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started down this path, it was really with that question, how do we add value? Right. And again, the day-to-day piece is really important because that's the kind of the delivery mechanism of how we actually make change. So just like I talked about with turning around my original business, fixing your AR is not a silver bullet one-time solution. It's a day-to-day grind of making sure that you're on top of customers or clients, making sure that you're forward with them about what the expectations are, that you're following up very, proficiently with all the reminders and that sort of thing. And so it doesn't get solved one day and then go away forever. And so that's why, to me, it's not a plan problem, it's an execution problem. So the day-to-day is really important for helping actually solve that problem long-term. And so when I went down this journey of trying to figure out how FinElevate would add value, what we came up with is that, most business owners have one of 4 goals, almost without fail. They have one of the same 4 goals. They either want to grow their business, they want to become more profitable, they want to have better cash flow, or they want to get their business ready to exit. And whatever that means for them, it could be hire someone like what I did. It could be sell your business, could be a family member that you're trying to groom for, whatever that is, they want to prepare the business. And so what we did was we developed what we call the Fin Score. And the Fin Score is basically 20 categories across those 4 goals. Where are you at with growth? Where are you at with the different drivers of profitability, the different drivers of cash flow? And so to your point, we're not coming at this from a CPA language who are going to get really in the technical jargon and in the weeds of things that may or may not really resonate with you. We're talking about, are you profitable? Yes or no? And why not? To the level that you want to be. And so we're really getting at the heart of the matter, and we're doing it in the kind of language that just as business owners, we speak with each other anyway. And so we're basically able to use that Fin Score to see where are you at when we start working together and where are we headed, right? And now we know what your goal is. So let's say you tell us that your goal is more profitability. We're going to focus on that area of the Fin Score. We do the entire 20 categories, the whole Fin Score. But we see what your score is and we hyper focus on profitability. What are the drivers that are maybe lacking? And what are the playbook items? So as I went down this, again, I said, this is not about being ultra technical. I went through all of my favorite books on the subject. There are best practices. Very, very little of this is truly custom to us. It is just the best practices, have to be implemented on a day-to-day basis, and it's a feedback loop. So we need to see what's working and what's not, feed it right back into the Fin score and see if it's moving the needle, and then regroup and keep going. And as a business owner, that's not really what you want to spend your time doing. That's why Fin Elevate exists, is so that you've got a trusted partner who does that for you and that you're in that feedback loop of communication. But it's really a set it and forget it. Once you've established the goal, you've sat down to look at the Fin score, you understand the playbook, but it's not you having to do it all. And yet it's being worked on. So you're still focused on your sites that you're building. You're still focused on selling new clients. This part of your business really becomes.
So you're doing it for them. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I'm what really stood out there was the different goals a business owner has, or somebody that's running a business, and how that impacts how they approach this. Like I was thinking about, like, what do I care about? I kind of care about growth. We're growing. We've grown for the last 5 years consistently, but it's not 100% my focus. Like, what is my focus? Like, I think for me, though, one of the biggest things is cash flow. I think that's one of the most cornerstone things for me. And maybe it's just the nature of my business. I have to be really focused on that. Yep. Because there's a lot going on, and I'm excuse me. And and how I build things in or think about things where there's retainers and things like that kind of even things out and give me a good foundation and make it less volatile. So those type of things, it is. So out of those items, like, what were the four things? You said four goals?
It's growth. Growth is number one. Profitability is number two. Cash flow is number three. And then exit the business. And again, right. Not ranking them in terms of someone's priority. Those are just the four options.
Right. Which one do you probably deal with the most? What do you think most business owners are more focused on?
I would say the profitability. I mean, it's very situational. So we have one client in particular who, came to us and said, hey, ultimately, I'd love to exit the business, hire someone to run it, et cetera, but I need to get more profitable. Well, for them in particular, profitability, believe it or not, is actually about growth, right? It's about scaling to a level where you actually have the fixed costs in your business are very easily covered. And so if you're, running an agency and you've got excess capacity, so your people are only working, they only have 60% of their time consumed with clients, you're going to struggle to be profitable, right?
Yeah.
And so your options are you can either have less people or you can get more volume turned up. And so it's very situational, different business owners. Right, but to your point, having run a business that struggled very heavily with cash flow, I mean, cash is everything until it's not a problem anymore, right? If it's even remotely a challenge, it is all consuming, wake you up in the middle of the night type of problem.
Yeah, when there's blips or something happens, it's like for me, it's usually I'm waking up an hour or two earlier than I normally do, and I'm laying in bed in the morning thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it's but most of the time we're in good shape, luckily. But
yeah. Well, and you mentioned growth. I mean, growth brings cash problems, interestingly. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily think of it that way. But in reality, depending on the model that you have, the more you grow, the tighter your cash becomes. And so it's kind of counterintuitive, but that is the reality. Now, the cash eventually catches up. But the problem is it only really catches up if you plateau. If you continue growing, it continues lagging. And so it's just it's that much more important that you have all the right behaviors around your cash.
Yeah. I find it. So one of my challenges has been, for a couple of years, we were so solid because most of my stuff was retainers. We did a lot of maintenance contracts and things like that. And we kept growing but then we started getting a different type of business, which was more project based and or hourly, and it was less predictable. And that really started to mess with me because I had to actually, because when we spike up, and then I had to add people to my team, and I had to really, absorb all that. And then if that wanes though, now we're a little more top heavy with, the retainers are still there, but now I have this other stuff that's more volatile, and I have to be a little more flexible, figure out how to run my team in a different way. and those are the things that I think about the most. But I think what I'm thinking about is, like, I have an exit plan, but it's in like 10, 20 years. I'm not even thinking about it right now.
Yep.
So imagine every business is kind of you have different phases, or maybe you're focused on profitability for a reason right now, but in a couple of years, maybe you're good, maybe something else happens, or maybe, so I imagine people coming in and out of these, or have different goals, depending on the stage they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's something we revisit, quarterly with our clients to make sure that we're still going after the same goal. To your point, there's nothing worse than all the hard work going toward the wrong goal. Right.
Yeah.
And so, right. yeah, it's definitely something that you want to revisit. And to your point, I mean, part of it's a season of life thing. It could be other, what's happening with other investments or outside influences. There's a lot of different reasons that, you could change what that goal is, but yeah.
Yeah. A lot of it, like for me, like in terms of growth, like, I talked to somebody, I don't remember who it was. This is like probably this past year, somebody on my podcast, and he was really into, quick growth, like want to get you from $0 to $1 million in next year. We can do it. Like, no, not for me. Not for me. Yeah. I'll do my 40 to 50% growth each year. We'll just grow, slowly, have more control of the ship. But I guess I wouldn't to complain if I got $1 million contract tomorrow, though.
Yeah. You can figure it out.
What are you we'll figure it out. But yeah, no, so, fascinating. Great conversation. I love talking about this stuff, because finance is so important. We all should be thinking about it more, and getting help. So business is good. So how long have you been doing, had the strategic, accounting business?
So originally this is something I just did for my own businesses for the past few years. Just kind of centralize it. So, doing all of this for the different manufacturing companies and the new door distribution company. And then really it's this year we've started going out with new clients and really kind of going to market with it. Because again, I realized there's such a need for it. I mean, I had a number of friends who said, hey, if you're ever willing to do this for somebody else, like, let me know. And they're clients now. So that's, basically the beginning of this whole concept. And I love, for me, part of the reason I left the conveyor business is no knock on the conveyor business. It was fine, but I love other entrepreneurs. I just love, talking with entrepreneurs, hearing about their business. I mean, I'm in strategic coach and I've always done mastermind groups and that sort of thing. And so that's always been a compelling thing to me, is spend time with other entrepreneurs, hear about their business, share war stories, share advice, and help them along that path. So this is the beauty of this business, is that's really what it's geared toward.
Yeah, that's why I got this podcast. I love talking about business and talking, sharing our war stories. So is there a specific niche vertical you're focused on? Not probably manufacturers, building conveyor belts.
Yeah, not manufacturers. So primarily, digital based businesses. So agencies is a big one. We're also, we're huge fans of EOS, and so we're kind of figuring out how to make sure that we fit really well in with EOS based businesses. I'm just a huge believer that framework helps the average entrepreneur. And really helps with clarity amongst the team and communication. And so we want to make sure our business really fits in tightly, like a hand in that glove, in terms of giving them the measurables that they need, communicating the financial side of the business in basic, no nonsense terms that the whole team can understand.
Nice. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it was great getting to know you and what you do. And thanks for sharing your knowledge about accounting and these ideas. I love the simplification thing. It can be super overwhelming to any business owner, but especially if you don't have that background or care about numbers or aren't good with numbers. It's not good. Your fate is sealed then, unless you get help. Unless you get help. So if somebody wants to learn more about what you do, or get in contact with you, or find you on the World Wide Web, maybe on some social media site like LinkedIn or something, are you out there?
We are. So we're on LinkedIn. You can look up Fin Elevate, all one word. And then our website is www.finelevate.com. So yeah, those are the easiest ways.
Well, thanks for joining us, Colin. Until next time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Take care. That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. If you want to comment on this episode's page, provide me with requests on topics for future episodes, or inquire about being a guest, please find your way to thebuilders.fm. You can contact me there or add a comment under these show notes. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you're interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.